Have you ever been in a situation where you're trying to study or you're trying to get some work done, but every 5 to 10 minutes you find yourself reaching for your phone or your laptop? I'm sure that happens to the best of us, and I know how frustrating that can be when you're just trying to focus on your work, when you're just trying to get work done. That is precisely why I am making this video. Hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be able to apply what I say the next time you are doing your revision or the next time you are studying. Now, before I actually delve into some of the hacks you can use to minimize distractions when studying, it's important that you understand some of the key reasons why students like you might often get sidetracked when studying. I think one of the first reasons why students are always distracted when they're studying is because they are not interested in what they're studying. Simple as that. Fortunately for me, I was quite a nerd back then. I still am. So back in secondary school, I quite enjoyed textbook learning. I quite enjoyed memorization. So it wasn't that much of a chore for me. Of course, I didn't enjoy, revising the content whenever exams were around the corner. But for the most part, I had the capacity, the mental capacity to memorize stuff pretty well. But I know that's not the case for all of you, and I know it's not possible for everyone to take interest in what they study, right? But I think if you at least just adopt an open mind and take learning as it is, it'll be much more fun, and you will see it less as a chore. When you see it less as a chore, you're less likely to get distracted. Because just think about how locked in you are when you are playing video games. A lot of you can play video games for hours at a time, but when it comes to studying, you can't do that simply because you're not interested. If you are doing work you like, you are less likely to be distracted. You are more likely to be focused and fixated on completing the task. This is why students often seize every opportunity they can to, reach for their phones, binge watch TikTok, play video games when they get to. Another reason why so many students, at least from what I observe, get distracted is because they don't understand what they're studying. And I'm sure this is relatable to most of y'all too. The times where I find myself distracted are normally the times I am confused. Because if you're confused, it's very difficult for you to focus. What's there for you to, memorize if you don't even understand what's in the textbook, what you're supposed to do. And so in that situation, I recommend you to consult AI, to consult ChatGPT. I'm kidding, guys. The teachers are going to kill me if they see this deal. But for real, try to consult your teacher whenever possible. That will at least help you understand what's being taught. And then when you study, you are less likely to be confused and you're more likely to, lock in. Because again, when you are confused, you are more likely to get sidetracked. You're more likely to work on another task. You're more likely to scroll on your phone. So consult a teacher whenever possible. This problem is quite easily solved. You can consult ChatGPT. I know it isn't always very realistic to go up to a teacher and ask them for help. You don't want to annoy them at times. Consult ChatGPT, but use it sparingly. Sounds like a teacher. Those are the two main reasons why students often get distracted when they're studying. There might be other reasons, but these are some of the two common factors to why students often get distracted based on what I've experienced myself. So now, let me share with you a few hacks on how you can minimize distractions when you're studying. These hacks are not foolproof. Some of them might work for you, some of them might not. So I recommend you test, some of these techniques out and see if they work for you. One of the first things you can do, a little bit cliche, find a conducive environment to study in. This differs from person to person. Different people study best in different environments. Some of y'all might prefer to study in public spaces simply because you might be sharing a room with your siblings, or simply because you might be living with your relatives and your home environment might not be exactly very conducive when it comes to doing productive work. I know a lot of people like to go to cafes because of the lively atmosphere, because of the smell of coffee. I think there's some psychological concept between, the smell of coffee and motivation or something. You can go look that up. Don't quote me on that, but people like going to cafes because of the atmosphere. Some people like going to libraries because they are motivated seeing other people their age study. I know that's the case for a lot of people. Whereas some students, on the other hand, prefer studying at home in the comfort of their own homes. And so it really depends on the individual. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. You really got to figure this out yourself. I can't really give you an answer. My rule of thumb is try to find a conducive environment, quiet environment ideally, because I think for the majority of us, we can't focus in noisy environments. I know some of you like to play music, but I don't think it's very advisable because I think it's still difficult to multitask, even if you're listening to instrumental music. That's why I don't exactly recommend listening to music if you are doing work which requires concentration. Now, another tip that kind of gels with the first one is to get rid of any distractions, get rid of anything which might distract you when you are studying. So for example, one thing I like to do is to put my phone out of reach. I know this is something which you've probably heard 1,001 times, but surprisingly it works. Because when my phone is near me, I oftentimes have this tendency to pick it up. I think it's just muscle memory, but when I place it out of reach, I still can stop myself in my own tracks when I try reaching for it, when I try, going to the other room. So I recommend you all to try that. Do that with your laptops if you don't need your laptop, to do your schoolwork. Another thing you can kind of do, speaking of iPhones, is to set your phone on Do Not Disturb. Why is annoying me? You can set your phone on Do Not Disturb. It's something I've been doing for the longest time. In fact, my phone's on Do Not Disturb 24/7. So whenever my friends try calling me, they get annoyed because they can't reach me. Yeah, I should probably turn off Do Not Disturb soon. Because honestly, Do Not Disturb only works if you are a disciplined person. Because even if you had Do Not Disturb turned on, you can still look at your notifications. It's just that notifications won't pop up directly above your screen when someone sends you a text. So if you're not disciplined, you don't have self-control, then Do Not Disturb is essentially useless because it really won't help. I think I should probably disable it because it isn't really helpful if you are still going to look at your notifications. My next piece of advice I have for you is to find a time where you are most productive at. This is not common advice, but I think it works. Haven't really tried it for myself, but from what I understand, there is some backing to it. Some of y'all might be night people, some of y'all might be morning people. Different people essentially work best at different times of the day. So trying to find that time which you are most productive at and try studying at that time. Try getting work done during that time frame because you'll be much more efficient, I believe, because when you're more productive, you'll generally be more locked in. I keep saying the word locked in. I know a lot of people like studying at night because it's less distracting. They don't have a bunch of people texting them. The environment is much more quiet in general, so that's one of the plus points to studying at night. But I don't really recommend you staying up late into the night because that's when your organs are supposed to repair itself, when your cells are supposed to repair itself. So I don't think it's very much advisable to do work late into the night when you should be sleeping. Another alternative is to study early in the morning because you get the same benefits of studying late into the night without sacrificing sleep. Well, you gotta wake up earlier, you gotta sacrifice a little bit of your sleep, but you're not sacrificing like the whole nights of rest. Try studying early in the morning. I heard it works for a lot of people. First thing they do when they get up is do productive work for like an hour or so because that's when things are the most peaceful other than late at night. You don't have a bunch of people spamming you, calling you and all that. So that's something you can try. But I understand again, this might not be so feasible or so practical for a lot of you guys who are in school. I understand that some of y'all start school at like 7:30, 7:50-ish. So I understand that you might not have a lot of time in the morning to get work done because you still need to travel to school, get ready for school, eat your breakfast and all that. Unless you want to sacrifice like few hours of your sleep, which probably not worth it. But try to find an allocated time when you work best at and try getting work done during that period. Another piece of advice I have for you is to optimize flow state. This is not so tangible in nature. So what is flow state essentially? Flow state is this optimal level of focus you often experience when you're super locked in. I heard this analogy the other day. It's probably the only way you can experience flow state without experiencing flow state. That is when you are shooting a basketball into a hoop, right? You know that state of mind you experience when you're about to toss the basketball into the hoop, right? That's exactly how flow state feels like. Your mind is essentially empty. You are just focused on the current task. You're just thinking about how you're going to complete the task. And so that state of being is very optimal when we're trying to get work done because it makes us a lot more efficient. It takes time to get into that state, but once you're in that state, I can assure you that you'll never want to leave it. That state of productivity is something I really enjoy being in. So my advice is for you to essentially optimize flow state. So when you get in the flow state, don't get distracted by your phone, or don't go and eat your dinner, or don't go and eat your lunch, because once you break that momentum, is very hard for you to get back into it. I much rather you complete what you need to do when you are still in that state, and then go for your dinner, go for your lunch, because that makes things a lot more efficient rather than taking big breaks along the way, which essentially causes you to lose momentum. So I hope you all learn a thing or two from this video, because I know a lot of us students have difficulties focusing at times. So I just wanted to make this video. I might make a more detailed one because I feel like I could have elaborated more on what I just said, maybe given you more study techniques. So I might do a part 2 to this video. This is quite a brief one, honestly, but hopefully you learned something, because I know how frustrating it is. With that, I challenge you to start applying whatever I've just said the next time you are doing your revision, next time you are getting work done, and report back to me. Happy studying, guys. Who's happy studying? Some people.